Welcome to Vitamin OC. I'm Joanna Weiss.
And I'm Whitney Gomez. Every week we bring you your recommended dose of civics and civilization in Orange County. And today we have a fascinating guest with us. Dr. Ellen Shockro and I met working on the Witty Committee at the Newport Beach Public Library. We bring lecturers to the community every year. And you were so interesting. And I was so fascinated to know that you were a professor and a triathlete and so many different things.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
We're so thrilled to have you. And I met Dr. Shockro through her participation with WAVE. She is a scholar, professor, endurance athlete, open water swimmer, triathlete, and lifelong competitor whose story challenges almost everything we think we know about achievement and reinvention. Dr. Shockro earned her bachelor's degree from Mills College, later completed a master's degree at Columbia University, and went on to receive a PhD in Chinese history from Claremont Graduate University. She spent much of her professional career teaching history and humanities at Pasadena City College, where she became known not only for her academic rigor, but also her intellectual curiosity and adventurous spirit.
What got me so interested in you is that I have a budding triathlete in my family, and you are a very accomplished triathlete and master swimmer. You took what I read was participation in a parent swim program and turned it into this decades-long, very impressive master swimming career. So we want to hear about that. But I want to list all of your races because this is going to knock people's socks off. So over the years, you've completed 68 triathlons, including 2 Ironman races in the mid-1980s. And I think you've got a story about that. And the 1980s were really the early years of the sport. So you were there right at the birth of this now very popular sport. You have competed in more than 350 open water races.
Right.
You swam the famous Waikiki rough water swim more than 24 times. You've got national rankings, All-American honors in master swimming, and you continued competing internationally into your 70s and 80s.
Yeah, into my 80s, correct.
Incredible.
Well, we will talk with Ellen about the role she played in standardizing triathlons and making it possible to bring them to the Olympics, her service on multiple boards, and the time she's spending these days teaching literacy at the Newport Beach Public Library. And Dr. Ellen Shockro, welcome to Vitamin OC.
Thank you.
You competed in triathlons, as we said, in the 1980s when the sport was still very new. What was the culture then, and what got you interested in competing this way?
There was an article in Sports Illustrated in 1979 that talked about the first Ironman, which had actually happened in 1978 with 15 competitors over 3 days, 3 of whom did not finish. They quit, actually, because they thought it was crazy. And when I saw that article, I did think it was crazy, but I knew I was going to do it. And actually, my then husband, or what you would call husband, he said I could never do it, and I knew I'd do it. And I'd started swimming. My children's swim coach was an early master swimmer and sort of one of the founders and a swim coach. He was a swim coach at a high school. He was a well-known swim coach. And he encouraged parents to swim. And that's when I knew how to swim. I had taught swimming. But girls didn't have competitive swimming on the East Coast where I grew up. However, I was an athlete. And I came from a very athletic family. My father one year won 3 national championships in track and field. He thought I was crazy, by the way, when I started to do triathlons, and particularly the Ironman. The culture was extremely different. It was not as, I'm going to say, commercialized, and it certainly wasn't as popular. So I was rare. The local newspaper, Pasadena Star News, I lived in Pasadena, did a full-page article about me in my second year of doing the triathlon, and they led with a question, why are you doing the Ironman for a second time? And I answered, to prove the first time wasn't a fluke.
Oh my gosh, women would love it. That is really funny.
And it was great. Oakley sunglasses started during my first triathlon in 1985, and I had what I had thought at that time, but it lasted 20 years, free Oakleys. And that was really cool. I am still loyal to the brand.
Wow.
And Ace's Shoes, which are actually a Japanese company, I believe, they started, and the same thing. I still wear Ace's shoes. It's just sort of one of those things. And you got a lot of swag.
Well, Well, there are so many branded products now and so many things that you can
Right.
buy to enhance the race experience, but you probably went out there with just a regular bike.
I had a regular bike. This was way before iPhones. There were these little computers you put on your bike so you could tell how far you'd gone. I remember the first time I did it because I got into the Ironman. You had to qualify, just like now. I was worried because I'd never ridden 112 miles on the bike. There's a bikeway along the 605 freeway that comes out in Seal Beach. I started to ride that Saturday mornings. It was 127 miles round trip. I figured that was getting me ready.
Wow, yeah, I'll say.
People would say, because I rode alone most of the time, and they said, weren't you scared of being attacked? Actually, I never was scared. It didn't even occur to me. I knew where the parks were, where the restrooms were, where I could fill my water bottle. My kids always made fun of me. I carried baked potatoes. Baked potato is a perfect food without all the junk added to it.
Well, you mentioned 112 miles for your bike ride, which is the standard measurement for triathlons now.
Only for the Ironman.
Only for the Ironman. Okay, so you were instrumental in establishing the standard distances for triathlons, which laid the groundwork to get triathlons admitted to the Olympics in Sydney in 2000.
Right.
Can you tell us about that experience?
I was really in the world of triathlon. I had a group of friends. Some of them were Australian. We would have discussions, and then we had some meetings about what would be the good distances. And obviously, most people weren't going to do the longer distances. There was no standard distance. And we came up with the formula of the swim would be 1.5K, which is 0.93 miles. And the bike ride would be 40K, which was 24.6 miles. And the run would be a 10K, which people are familiar with, 6.2 miles. And everyone felt that that was a good distance. It's known as the Olympic distance or the international distance. And many, many triathlons are that distance. In fact, there was a series in the 1980s into the 1990s sponsored by Bud Light. And I did a lot of those all over the place. And at the end, the Bud Light truck would be there with taps right into the side of the truck.
That's hilarious.
And I'm not much of a drinker. I mean, I hardly drink at all. But a cold beer when you're really hot at the end of a race is pretty good.
That's
It's
great.
like one of the best beers. That sounds like a very good one. So Whitney had listed many of the races in which you've competed, and we understand you swim in the mornings with one of our previous guests, Jason Stern, who has voiced incredible respect for your swimming prowess to this day. Are you still competing?
I am, yes. I compete differently because I have a home in Maine, and I do spend my summers there. So I've done all the races in Maine numerous times, but it's very cold. I learned to swim here without a wetsuit. In fact, I was in the anti-neoprene generation. You couldn't do a swim and win an award if you wore a wetsuit. Now they have wetsuit divisions. Wetsuits give you 12% more buoyancy, to be exact. So it's not fair to have one person in a wetsuit and one person in bioprene, which is what we call not wearing a wetsuit. I learned to swim in the ocean, and I swam regularly. And if you acclimate through the winter, it's fine. After I retired, which was in 2010, I did start going to Worlds. So I've been to Italy and Montreal, and I've been to Fukuoka, Japan, most recently.
Wow.
And I've been to Hungary, and I'm going back to Hungary in 2027 as part of a relay team. I don't mind saying my age, because in swimming you learn that aging up is a good thing. So that summer I turned 85, and I'll be in an 85 to 89-year-old age group, and I'll be in a women's relay, and we will break all the world records because I'm okay. I'm not, I place. I mean, it's easier to place as you get older because there is less competition, but the other women I'm going to be swimming with are faster than I am. They're not Californian. They're from actually all over. So I was asked to be on that team, which will be pretty fun.
Really, that's exciting.
Yeah,
Where's
and
the swim in Hungary?
it's in Budapest. The open water swim was in a lake. It's the largest lake in Europe.
Lake Balaton?
Yes.
I was there. I backpacked and we stayed.
Really?
We camped out after college for a week in Lake Balaton.
So in 2017, I went to Worlds. We're in Budapest. Budapest is an incredible city to swim in. They have fabulous pools, and they have Lake Balaton.
Right.
And I rode out on the train with friends from England. I'd run the college program, study abroad program in Oxford for 10 years. So I had very good British swimming friends. There were 7 women in my age group then, which was 75 to 79. And I was the only American, but there was someone from Brazil and Hungary and England and Russia and Germany. I swam my heart out. I didn't know how I'd done. And when I get up the ladder, they said, "You're second." I was so excited.
Oh, wow.
And they had, like in the Olympics, 1, 2, 3, you got a podium. It was super. It was super.
You and I have spoken about your board service, and
Yes.
over the years you have served on many, many boards. Do you want to give us just a smattering of examples of organizations you've served in that way?
My mother had been on boards, and so I had a good example. And my board's interest has always been women and girls, maybe athletics, and then education. And then I decided that I should usually be on a local board, a regional board, and a national board. Related to women in Pasadena, 2 friends had organized an organization called Women at Work. I went on to that board the second year, and I was on it for a long time. We did employment for women, both training, and then we had corporate members who would hire. And all kinds of women, I mean, from unskilled to MBAs. And it's been very successful. It ended in 2016, but it had lasted 39 years. And that was pretty amazing. And then also around 1980, I got involved with the women's movement. And I met a group of women from all over. I was at that time teaching at a private high school in Pasadena, Polytechnic. And I also became chair of the California Association of Independent Schools women's part. And I put on a conference, and we met at a home in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And I did not go to Wellesley College, but then I went on to the Wellesley College Centers for Women Board. And then I went on to the Girls Inc. National Board based in New York. I had a friend who was in Washington, D.C. She was actually high up in the Reagan administration. She was first press secretary and then head of the OMB. She had to change her party affiliation in order to do that, by the way. It was a great job. It was really fun to be in the White House, in the offices, and with her. And she was on the Girls Inc. National Board, and she felt I was a great candidate. And I, again, met a lot of people. I served on that board for quite some time. It was fun, and I really believe in Girls Inc. It's a wonderful organization. I've done some things with Girls Inc. OC. Girls Inc. OC is one of the best ones in the country. At the time I was on the board, we had 107 affiliates all over the country, even serving Navajo Indians. Now there's only 75. Girls Inc. name was changed in 1990 because it had been girls' clubs, and they felt that Girls Inc. was better. Other boards I've served on locally, I've been very active with Human Options here in Orange County. I've been president twice. I've been involved in several other boards that are interesting. Pacific Crest Outward Bound School. That was quite an experience. And then the Stanford Athletic Board, which I know you might want to ask me.
I need to ask you about that. Condoleezza Rice is a longtime idol of mine. So tell us about that experience with her.
Yeah, I went onto that board, and there was a reason why I was asked. They needed women on the board, and there were very few women. It was a large board. There were 60 people on the board. They didn't all come to the meetings, but I did. It was fun. I mean, it was great. I got to swim with the Olympic coaches in the Stanford pool. I mean, it was so outstanding. I was assigned to a committee with Condoleezza Rice. She was a professor of political science, and this is, the late 80s, early 90s. I looked her up before I came. I knew she was a classical pianist. She's at Stanford. She's director of the Hoover Institute. She's still an active professor. I think she's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she was wonderful. What we did, our subcommittee looked at who got into Stanford as football players and how that compared to other large private institutions like Notre Dame was one of the comparisons in terms of, were we cheating on grades? Were they, as we found that Stanford and Notre Dame did not cheat. And they were taking students that would get in anyway. And I thought that was pretty remarkable. And we went through a lot of records. I mean, so she was delightful. She was professional and personal and had a great sense of humor. So
incredible experience for you.
Yeah. really great experience. I'm sure she has no memory of me.
That doesn't matter. That's okay.
You're quite memorable. You'd be surprised. You likely know another former guest that we've had on, Ocean View trustee Gina Clayton Tarvin, as she is the president of the board of trustees there. When your husband Jack Shaw retired, you dedicated yourselves to improving the lives of people in Oakview. This is an area that Gina talked about, and then even another one of our guests, Victor Valladares. They've done work in the area too. You and Jack founded El Viento, an educational program, almost 30 years ago. Can you tell us what you did in Oakview and why you did it?
Well, Jack really wanted to do something. He'd sort of retired. He was still doing consulting. He'd been vice chairman of Deloitte and one of the founders of management consulting, but he was a problem solver. He wanted to somehow give back, and plus he was a sailor. He loved sailing. I was too. I was a sailing counselor at camps in Maine. We met some people that were involved with the Coast College District. I think that's 3 colleges. We were introduced to Bill Vega, who at that time was the chancellor of the Coast College District. He told us about Oakview. He said it was this little school and neighborhood, almost like a barrio, but that they really needed help. Our vision was, and it was really Jack's vision, but mine too, was that through sailing, that would be a metaphor for life. We ended up taking 4th graders, and we didn't want the most, the star students who we knew would get all kinds of help as gifted. We wanted good, average kids, and we wanted them to finish high school, which wasn't that common, and go to at least community college. And that's what we did. And Jack was very good at getting collaborations. We collaborated with the Assistance League of Huntington Beach, who paid for all our community college scholarships for 2 years for anyone who graduated. Didn't matter what they were going into. And we had 25 kids a year. I was the one that talked the teachers at Oakview, the 4th grade teachers, into recommending students and getting a program going. And they had after-school tutoring. And we took them on field trips once a month, all kinds of field trips. We went to the Queen Mary. We did really cool field trips. And Jack raised the money. We supported the Orange County Community Foundation and so we had a fund there. We both went off the board by agreement in 2016, and they changed. Unfortunately, we thought that they were going to keep our mission and our vision, but it changed. But that's okay. We feel that we helped a lot of kids, and I occasionally hear from them still.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. El Viento was wonderful. And by the way, the 4th graders came up with the name, which as in Spanish, that means the wind.
Oh, that's so nice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So you also volunteer with Friends of the Newport Beach Library.
I do.
My uncle volunteers there also. He's been tutoring there for a couple of years now. You continue to work in volunteer education at the Newport Beach Library's literacy program. Can you tell us about your experience there?
Yes. So I love that. And we need more tutors for anybody that might listen to this. It does require 2 days of taking classes, and then you go through a background check with the Newport Beach Police. I have a lot of friends that have done it. You don't know who you're going to get, but Christina Smith, who's the head of it, really tries to match you with somebody. And I was matched with I adore her. And she's trying to learn to speak English. She's Japanese. She's been here for a long time, but doesn't really speak it. She says you can live in Irvine and not have to speak English.
Incredible.
And she has a daughter in elementary school, and Irvine provides a Japanese interpreter, but she's determined to speak English to the teacher and to her daughter's friends, parents. She's doing well. It's hard, but we meet once a week, and she's taken me to all the Japanese stores down there, like Tokyo Central Market and Daiso. It's fabulous. It's so much fun. People have different experiences. It depends really how much of a connection you have. And I'll keep her until she doesn't want to do it anymore. And when I'm away this summer at my home in Maine, we plan to FaceTime. It's really fun. And then I also work in the bookstore, but mostly I do pricing of donations. As everybody knows, I'll put in a plug. Newport Beach Public Library is one of those places you can take donations. And some of the old things get put away. Some of them are vintage, and we do research on them, and we make quite a bit of money. And on average, we make $300,000 a year for the Newport Beach Public Library, and it's usually for children's books.
That's astounding.
Wow.
That's
a lot of money.
A lot of money. My uncle has similarly had a wonderful experience with, he's been tutoring a Chinese woman for a couple of years now, and her English has improved remarkably. As a matter of fact, they're working on reading. They use the newspaper that's provided, and they go through that every week, and it's been really rewarding.
It's a wonderful program. It's called Project Adult Literacy.
In our discussions at the Witty Committee,
Yes.
we're always talking about what's going on in the world and where things are going for the next year, what speakers do we want to bring. From your perch as a very well-educated person who's seen a lot over the years, how are you seeing the world right now?
It's depressing. I guess in historical terms, you can take a step back and say, well, it's just something that we're going through, and there have been other times when there's been some steps back. I feel, at least in this country, I'm sad. I mean, it's against everything. So my answer to that is that I try hard every day to practice kindness to people. And I go out of my way to be kind. I feel that locally, we can all do things locally. And I'm not active in politics at all. I try not to be. I do go on some of the marches, maybe all of the marches. It's mostly older people that go on the marches. So I actually have a lot of hope for young people. I'm not worried about AI. We will adjust. We've adjusted to major changes. Imagine at the turn of the century from 1899 to 1900, the things that were coming in. I mean, electricity. I mean, a lot of places in America didn't have electricity yet. So many things. The car, airplanes, 1903. There were so many big changes, and we've gone through a lot of big changes with computers. I mean, my students used to say, how could you have written a dissertation without a computer? I had to hire a typist, that had to do it in triplicate. And because I couldn't, I'm a good typist, but not that good. And so it's just, there've been so many changes. So we will adjust to AI. It will be a wonderful tool. That's how I see it. I think it's an advance.
For people listening who might be similarly sad or despondent about where things are, what do you recommend that they do?
Get involved locally. Feel good about helping other people. And there's a million ways to do that. There are at every level, every place in America. And there are organizations you can join that just help seniors. I don't need help particularly.
You don't need any help.
Yes, no.
But
Not at
I
all.
don't know.
But there are people who do, for sure.
There's a lot of people who do. And everyone ages. And it's unavoidable unless you die young.
Right. It's inevitable, right?
Yeah.
They talk about Renaissance men. You are a Renaissance woman, if I've ever met one. An intellectual, an athlete, a philanthropist. We're so grateful for you taking the time to be with us today. You've been making a difference in people's lives for decades, and we might not be able to change the global situation or national, but we can make a difference locally. So we really appreciate you talking about that.
Thank you.
And I knew I liked you the first time I met you. But after talking to you more and researching you, you're such an interesting person, and we wish you a great summer in Maine.
Thank you.
Thank you for fitting us in before you leave. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us for your recommended dose of civics and civilization in Orange County.
We'll see you next time on Vitamin OC.